Hi and welcome to htmx on Sinatra. In this tutorial, we will look at how to add interactivity to a simple Sinatra app using the library htmx. htmx is developed by Carson Gross, who is a senior software engineer and an instructor at Montana State University Computer Science Department. htmx is a successor to intercooler.js in development since 2013, and now htmx replaces intercooler 2.0 as a separate library. So what htmx gives us the ability to do is have access to Ajax, CSS transitions, WebSockets, and server-sent events directly in HTML rather. htmx in HTMX is yet to be developed. But we can use declarative attributes in our HTML code and build modern web interfaces with the simplicity and power of hypertext. And indeed, hypermedia is the big concept that htmx is aiming to revive. And hypermedia is the representation of information plus embedded action controls. And we will be returning to this concept many times in the course of this tutorial. Along the way, we will touch on HTTP, that's the protocol for client-server communication used on the web, REST, a set of design principles for how these information resources must be organized and manipulated. This applies to websites and web applications, as we will see. And then hypermedia is how users can operate these resources using state transitions afforded by hypertext. And this is potentially the least understood aspect of this stack, and the reason why I chose to focus on it in this tutorial. For the example app used in this tutorial, I've had two constraints. One is minimal domain complexity, because we want to focus on our subject matter, HTMX. And two, it must illustrate a common use case or workflow in web development. So here's the application. Suppose we have a landing page here and a contact submission form. The user enters their name and email, submits, and a personalized thank you message is shown in place of the form without any change in navigation. So why Sinatra? Sinatra is a great fit for this tutorial because, firstly, it's very minimalist. It maps a Ruby DSL to HTTP verbs and gets out of the way. Developing in Sinatra feels like dealing with HTTP directly. Second, it's declarative. The central concept in a Sinatra app is the route, and there's great synergy here between Sinatra and HTMX, which is also declarative and also uses routes in attributes. Finally, it's simple in that it only adds a single layer of abstraction above rack, rack being the web server interface or middleware used in the Ruby ecosystem. So this is the Sinatra project page. We can go to the README. So this is the classical hello world example that just returns the string. And here are the routes that form the core of Sinatra functionality, which map to HTTP verbs each. So we have get, post, put, patch, delete, options, link, unlink. And the return value of a route is the response body passed onto the HTTP client, or at the least the next middleware in the rack stack. Most commonly this is a string, as in the above example. So this block here is an encapsulation of a request response cycle. You have a HTTP verb and a URL matching pattern, and this is the response body, and the last statement, the last and only in this case, is the response string sent to the client, which is the browser. Looking at one level below Sinatra, we have rack. Wow, that's a nice logo. Geometrical typography is amazing. So rack provides a minimal, modular, and adaptable interface for developing web applications in Ruby. By wrapping HTTP requests and responses in the simplest way possible, it unifies and distills the bridge between web servers, web frameworks, and web application into a single method call. So we have installation instructions here, and if we look at this snippet here, it's evident rack also uses some sort of a DSL, run environment. This looks like an HTTP response code, and then it sends an empty hash, and this is the response string. Okay, and this is a listing of all the modules included with rack. We can see rack config here, content length, content type, entity tags, events, files. So this is rather low-level stuff. Runtime. Convenience interfaces include request and response, media types and MIME types. And if we open specification here, we have all the core methods here. Or rather, these are variables, the environment variables, which also reflect the workings of HTTP. So if you're interested in how web applications work and talk to the server, this code base is probably worth studying. And just so we can end this episode on a practical note, here is the Hello World example used in the Sinatra README. We require Sinatra here. And here's the route, HTTP verb, URL matching pattern, and the response string. And here is how it looks in the browser, completely without formatting. Boom.